his election 6 years ago, the city of Lompoc had no relationship with our congressional representatives. I was elected into the mayoral role about the same time that he was elected to Congress, and we immediately reached out to each other and started a discussion because he really understood Lompoc's economic development background, the population here, the jobs that are here, as well as the military-based relationship. We've built on that over the past 6 years. As a result, what you have seen is federal appropriations and budget items and infrastructure bill passed that have directly benefited our community in a very large way. We've received almost $9 million for our Lompoc airport that allowed us to repave the runway and the taxiway that we would never have been able to afford because of the cost of asphalt. It is an economic generator, and without that, we were losing airport usage from private pilots to small commercial airlines that fly in and out, and that was huge to us, so thank you for that. We got nearly $500,000 to help with the Floridel Bridge being repaved and expanded because it was too low and getting flooded out, and we were doing some work in partnership with Vandermeer Village to provide them wastewater services and going to have to redo that area anyway, so huge help there. One of the biggest benefits was nearly $1.2 million for Pioneer Park, which is one of our oldest parks. And it has a high amount of multifamily homes, so the park's their backyard. And without that $1.2 million, we would have already been able to ribbon cut it for the new playground and the new picnic area and the new lighting, and have saved the money we were going to put in to now additionally work on the baseball fields, which will start after baseball season is over. I could continue because there are smaller and yet more important contributions that he has made, but I'll leave him to expand on that himself. And I just want to say thank you for the partnership, thank you for the work, and thank you for recognizing the needs of Lompoc over the past 6 years. Congressman Carbajal.
Thank you, Mayor Osborne. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I want to thank the mayor for being such a great partner with me and my office to make sure that we are doing everything possible to lift up the quality of life here in Lompoc. And I've been committed to that. I think actions speak louder than words. And as the mayor said a few things, I'll touch on a few other things as well. I also want to thank the city of Lompoc for opening this wonderful facility up for this meeting tonight. Thank you for letting us use this, Mayor Osborne. Very grateful to you and the city of Lompoc. You see a lot of our wonderful public servants here today, our public safety officers. They're here for your safety as well as ours. As you've seen, political violence has really grown a lot in our country, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So I really applaud them for being here. Let's give them a round of applause. It's great to be here today to answer your questions and to share some of the work that I've been working on in Washington, again, to make the quality of life better for our Lompoc residents and the entire region. Washington dysfunction may seem like it's at its all-time high, and to be clear, that is not entirely untrue. But thanks to laws I helped create, many of them bipartisan, a lot is happening behind the scenes that you may not realize is the result of these recent successes that I've been actually working on, governing and getting things done for our Central Coast. Lompoc has benefited greatly from the bipartisan infrastructure law and other federal funding bills, many of which have included direct funding for Lompoc that I personally fought for. That includes nearly $10 million, as the mayor touched on, for the Lompoc Airport, $5 million to support COPE local transit to make sure the public is able to have public transportation from one point to another, community funding for the renovation of Pioneer Park, new baseball fields are coming in spring, expanded capacity at the Lompoc Health Clinic, and recently $728,000 for the police department's dispatch system. Recently we passed the $1 billion mark of investments that have come to the Central Coast from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And as I was on the committee that helped write and pass these bills, I'm so proud of the milestones we have achieved together. I am continuing to work in Washington to implement policies that can lower your cost of living, bring down the high price of housing, child care, utility bills, healthcare premiums, insulin and prescription drugs, and everyday essentials. In addition to that, I am working to promote community and public safety. Many of my community project funding has gone towards our public safety agencies in the Central Coast. I recently introduced legislation to double the amount of federal grant of dollars available to local police departments to hire and retain police officers. Police officers throughout the country, in the state of California, and here on the Central Coast, have had some challenges filling a lot of the vacancies that have occurred over the years. I also got one of the bills I led last year signed into law to improve the federal coordination at preventing fentanyl trafficking, because we have seen the terrible effects that this drug is having in our state and across the country. I remain committed as well to protecting our communities from other dangerous threats, from gun violence and natural disasters, worsened by climate change like flooding and wildfires. And I am continuing to fight every day in Washington to defend your fundamental freedoms, the freedoms to be who you are, have control over your own body and healthcare choices, to live without extremist politicians intervening, like telling you what you can read. I know this past month has come with a lot of political news reminding folks that this event is being held to provide an update on what I have been working on in Congress, and other official actions that my team and I are working on. As much as it is an election year, and there has been no shortage of news on that front, because this event has been set up with taxpayer dollars, let me repeat that, taxpayer dollars, I am not permitted to touch on political topics today. Except to say this, your voice in a democracy is your vote. I hope you will vote and tell your friends and family to do so. Do the same for whichever candidate or issues you believe in. In closing, I want to thank again our City of Lompoc, Mayor Janelle Osborne, our police department staff that are here. And with that, let me turn it back to our team so we can get going with the questions. But before we do that, I want to recognize my team that is here. Ian is here. We have Diana. Where's Diana? Back there. Esmeralda, Amisha, and our two wonderful interns, Taylor and Sarah, who are in the back. With that, why don't we turn it over to you, Ian?
Sure. I'm going to be projecting as I can, so we only have one mic. So the first question we're going to have tonight is from Kit. Is Kit here? Can you raise your hand again? Thank you. And we'll do Marcelino will be next.
So I would like to
Can you
understand.
turn on the microphone so everybody can hear?
I would like to understand if there are projects in the works for multi-purpose buildings in Lompoc. I know I work at the university in an IB. They have like set up dorms for affordable housing, and below there's shops and retail space. We have a lot of open space in Lompoc that could be used for more affordable housing and to help people that can't afford some of the housing to get into homes and off the streets.
Sure.
The second question would be, SpaceX has just announced they're moving out of California, and that was going to bring a lot of revenue in for our area. Are there plans to bring other research companies in to the base?
Thank you. There's the traditional sources of federal funding, CDBG and home funds, that are made available to local municipalities to explore those repurposing projects with the private sector and the public sector. But there's also a lot more resources that are being contemplated through various pieces of legislation. I have signed on to 2 pieces of legislation that are vitally important that would expand those resources and funding streams. One is called the Housing for All Act. The other one is called the DASH Act. Those would provide a number of funding resources to accomplish a lot more affordable and public housing and private public partnerships to build about more housing opportunities in our communities. So that's that for that. In terms of SpaceX, it's my understanding that the announcement that was made was for their headquarters, but they are going to continue to work out of Vandenberg Space Force Base for the various launches that they provide here. And I believe what they referenced in that move was the headquarters. Next. Sorry, we're going to do this dance all night, but we thought we were going to have more microphones and we only have one.
Well, Amisha's got good walking shoes on. Marcelino.
Hi, Salud. I've been writing you for many months now, just expressing my concern about the genocide that's unfolding in Palestine. It has been extremely traumatic to witness that unfolding every day, and to just see the carnage get worse and worse and worse and worse. And every time that you've responded to me, you have pivoted to talk about Hamas and October 7th, and you have not acknowledged what the concerns that I'm bringing forward, which is the genocide of Palestinian people. And I am speaking here today because we fund Israel with $3.8 billion in aid annually. That's over $1 million that comes out of Santa Barbara County alone. That's money that could go to public housing, healthcare, schools, student loan relief, and many other projects that you want to fund here in our county. Now, my question for you is that the U.S. Leahy laws prohibit the U.S. Department of State and Department of Defense from providing military assistance to foreign security forces that have been credibly implicated in gross human rights violations. And these laws are on the books. There are laws. They're designed to ensure that U.S. foreign aid does not support or facilitate human rights abuses. There are many credible allegations of human rights violations that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are carrying out against Palestine, and the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, has deemed that there is plausible genocide unfolding. And my question to you is, how do you plan to address the concerns that the current U.S. funding and support to Israel may be in violation of the Leahy laws, which prohibit U.S. aid to forces involved in serious human rights violations? And will you stop funding genocide?
Marcelino, thank you for that question. I guess just for a point of reference, we know how this war was started. A terrorist organization of Hamas went in and killed an inordinate amount of Israelis in Israel's soil. And it was barbaric. And that led to this unfortunate war. Now, certainly, the loss of life there and the continued loss of civilian life in Gaza are heartbreaking. And it's been horrendous, the loss of life. And Israel certainly has the right to defend itself from that attack on October 7th. I will tell you that because of the concern of the loss of life, am for a ceasefire. I was always for making sure that more humanitarian got in to Gaza. I pressed the Israeli government. I encouraged President Biden to make sure that we did more to get more aid, humanitarian aid into Gaza. You saw the temporary water bridge that was put in to help. Certainly it hasn't been perfect, but I also advocated with a number of my colleagues that the Biden administration look at Memorandum 20 to assess whether human rights violations were occurring in Israel, in Gaza specifically. The outcome of that investigation led to the answer was that it wasn't the case. I know many disagree with that. I am for reaching a ceasefire. The Biden administration has been working day and night on diplomacy to achieve that. They put forth a 3-phase proposal, which I hope is achieved between Israel and those representatives in Gaza from the Hamas organization, so that we can get to a long-term ceasefire that will bring prosperity and security both for Israelis and Palestinians, and achieve a 2-state solution that I think will achieve that. Israel is one of our most important democracies and allies for the United States, and I have voted to provide them the defensive weapons that they need to defend themselves. We have seen that Iran and its proxies have assaulted Israel a few months ago, and a lot of those assaults continue by Hezbollah in the northern part of the country from Lebanon. This conflict, as many of you know, has been going on for decades. And it's a complicated circumstance. And I believe that the Biden administration is doing their best to achieve a diplomatic resolution under the circumstances. Now, we may agree to disagree, but that is my position, and that is my assessment of the circumstance in that region. So thank you very, very much for asking your question. Next.
Next, we're going to go with Kristen. Kristen, are you here?
I'm sorry.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me share my question here. I'm a working parent here, a 2-working family, and we rely on childcare. And this week, the Lompoc Unified District notified us a week and a half before school started that our children were not going to get into the aftercare program that we've relied on for 6 years. We did not get in because we do not qualify anymore. All spots, it seems, went to the Expanded Learning Opportunities program, which only allows access to students who are English learners, foster, and on free and reduced lunch. My family and I will never qualify for these programs, but we work to be financially responsible for our family. What are you going to do to help support working families in Lompoc who have 0 assistance in aftercare program right now?
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Kristen, and I'm sorry about your predicament. The sad thing is that there are so many other families experiencing the same. We have a crisis in childcare throughout our country, and here on the Central Coast is no exception. And you're highlighting an example of the challenge that many families face. I have introduced a bill. It's a bipartisan bill. Republicans and Democrats are on it. It's called the Child Care Investment Act. And what it does is it does 3 major things. 2 or 3 major things, let me get it right. The first thing it does is it works to provide the existing tax credit. It modernizes it so that it really provides an incentive for businesses to be able to work together to offer child care to their employees. And for the first time, they'll be able to collaborate to actually get the tax credit, because before, businesses are not allowed, without this law, to collaborate and get a tax credit, therefore not having an incentive to work together. This law that I've initiated would make that incentive tax credit larger for businesses, and it would allow them to collaborate to bring about more employee child care. It also takes the existing child care tax credits, and it enhances them and doubles them so that families could actually be able to have a larger tax break for child care. And it also makes it fundable, which it wasn't in the past, to allow a broader swath of individuals to be able to utilize child care. Basically, it takes the existing tax framework that exists for child care and modernizes it. But it's not law yet. It's a proposal I initiated. It's bipartisan, and I hope to get it over the finish line. There's a lot of talk that in the tax bill that is going to be considered next Congress is going to consider a lot of these programs and pieces of legislation. I'm hoping that mine will be part of that, along with the child tax credit, which is different than the child care tax credit that I'm proposing. So with all of these, it'll make child care more accessible and allow families to have more resources to pay for child care. But it is a real challenge that many are facing in all communities across the Central Coast, throughout the state and our country. But thank you for sharing. I have a daughter, I have 2 grandkids, and I know how expensive it is for child care. It is horrendously expensive. So thank you for raising that. And I'll continue to work on it.
Next, we'll be going to Patricia. Patricia?
Unless there's another Patricia. I don't know, I can't read the room, so I don't know how SpaceX fans or non-fans are. I am a non-fan. And thank you. Thank you for your support. No. A while ago, I contacted your office and was helped by someone who sent me things that you have been doing, and basically told me, oh well, it's the FAA that gave SpaceX the additional flights or launches that they wanted. It's incredibly rude to have a launch at 2 a.m. or a launch that could go off at 11:30, but the window is until 3. I personally don't see a lot of revenue from SpaceX coming to Lompoc, because I think the people who are paid live in other places and they don't come here for lunch. So I don't see the benefit. And all they're doing is polluting the sky. Are all of these satellites that they're launching going to be coming down on Lompoc? Or, well, I guess they go up from here, but they can come down anywhere. Long story short, do you have any pull with the FAA? I just want the ones from 11:30 until 6 a.m. eliminated. When I look at the launches at Cape Canaveral and other places, they're at reasonable hours. And granted, the next launch coming up is at 7 p.m. My dog will only bark until 9.
Thank you.
Can you do something?
Well, the FAA has certain authorities that they have had for many, many years. Certainly, I can take that back and explore why more launches are happening. I know it's a matter of whether and when they could do what they do, but I will explore if there is a window that they can lessen and take that back. I will tell you that a lot of these payloads are national security payloads. We have 2 places that these payloads and launches occur: Cape Canaveral and Vandenberg, Space Force Base. Those are the only 2 in our country that are widely used for this. So I also have a mitigation bill that I'm trying to get through the National Defense Authorization Act through my committee and the House Armed Services Committee. And that would provide grant mitigation, obviously not perfect, but it would provide grant mitigation for homes who may want to mitigate some of that noise when at all possible, double pane windows, certain retrofits that they could do. I know it won't solve the problem, but everything helps, and that is something that I'm trying to get through. Your point is well taken. Having a flight at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and having a sonic boom is concerning, and I understand that. I will take back the hours and the windows to see if there's any way they could give that consideration. But thank you for your question. I am working on that grant program. Let me see what I can do. Thank you.
Next, we're going to Rose. Rose, are you here?
Rose?
Rose.
Okay. Nice to see you. It's really great to see you and that you're here. You're coming. You know, I don't live in Lompoc, but I came from Santa Maria. Okay, and my concern has been rent control. Other states have rent control. And I think maybe, you know, Congress can do something about that because other states have rent control. Why can't California have rent control? And my second concern is senior housing. You know, when Lois Capps was Congresswoman, she built senior homes in Carpinteria. But we need some here in Lompoc. We need some in Santa Maria. We need them, you know, in other parts of the country. And of course here in California. So I hope that, Congressman, that you would work on that, please.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for that question. Rent control, as you know, rent control is really local ordinances and statewide ordinances. It's really not a federal directive that can be issued. So I will leave that to our local, your local representatives and your city councils and your state legislators. In terms of senior housing, my staff are going to give me a list. I have been able to achieve millions of dollars for various housing projects in the region. A good number of them for senior housing programs. So, that's, so if we get that, let me see if I have it here. I'll just name a few. I think this has some bills that I've sponsored, but I'll try to get the project funding, community project funding. $2,500,000 for Escalante Meadows Community Center funding. $2 million for the Housing Authority of San Luis Obispo Anderson Hotel. $1 million for the Housing Authority of Santa Buenaventura. $1.2 million for the City of Santa Maria. $1 million for the City of Guadalupe Senior Center renovation. So there's a good number of them. I'll give you a list of all the projects that we've been able to get funded. But we're working on that diligently. More needs to be done. Thank you for your interest and for raising that question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to David.
My name is David Yo from Malbec. I've written to you many times, received a lot of very interesting replies, which don't usually cover the questions that I'm asking. Marcelino touched on, thank you Marcelino, touched on many of the topics. I would hope that at some point you and the rest of the legislators would understand that the problems in Gaza and the Middle East did not start on October 7th. And the words that you use, the terror attack, is horrible. It's not a terror attack. The Palestinians have a right through the UN to armed resistance of an occupier. the occupier that you speak of, who has a right to defend themselves, they have a right to occupy territory because you get that APAC money for some reason. You have given Israel the opportunity to murder and to attack hospitals and schools and to shoot and kill aid workers. You've given them permission by saying nothing, by doing nothing. And now, when the retaliation comes, that means you have authorized and given the other side permission to attack hospitals, schools, and aid workers. It is really, really sad. It's really, really sad. I really wish that you would read and find out and get away from your assistants who are sending out the letters that you send us, telling us how great you are and what you're doing. From this letter that you, from the 24th of July, about the Netanyahu's visit, I'm disgusted that you would even attend. However, you do not have a strong feeling for Mr. Netanyahu, and that's what you have here, and what you send to us. That's not what we see in your actions. And I really, really hope that you will, if you're not familiar with the Hannibal Directive, which gave Israel their IOF, the ordinance to be able to attack, to prevent having Israeli hostages taken into Gaza, that their tanks and their helicopters barraged those territories with, which are, no, I'm not a public speaker.
What's your question?
What will you do to stop the murder of women and children? What will you do to convince your president and to protect and back the people of this country who are not for what's going on over there? When will you stand up and say, Mr. President, Miss President, whoever, I've had enough. I can't support the people of my country, of my state, do not support this. When will you stop supporting Israel and the war machine and the murder of children, the genocide? And it is a genocide. It breaks my heart. And I would like to be able to support you and sponsor you. And I probably voted for you originally. But I'm telling you, from what I've received from you, or any of my legislators, I thought this country was a good country that believed in truth and right. And I have not seen right. And it didn't start on October 7th, because it started in the 1890s. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David. I think as you said, this has been going on for decades. October 7th was, next to the Holocaust, the worst attack on Israel.
Wrong. Holocaust.
Let me finish. You had your choice. You had your chance. Certainly, I have been critical of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yes.
And that I separate from Israel, the people of Israel, and the state of Israel. And I think I have been vocal about the excessive force used by Israel in their pursuit of trying to destroy Hamas. I have been critical of the approach that they've been taking. I have voiced that. You can look on my social media, you can look on my statements that I made. Certainly it hasn't been what the standard you think I need to abide by or that I need to achieve. And so we'll agree to disagree on that. But I appreciate your advocacy, I appreciate your views, and I appreciate your statement today and the questions you raised. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Marcia, and just as a reminder, we have limited time here, so to the extent to which we can stay to questions and not statements, that would be appreciated. Marcia, sorry.
Yeah, that would be me.
There you go.
Hi, good evening, Congressman. My question is just a follow-up to the, I sent an email and also letters to your office just regarding the weather modification programs that are going on in our skies and throughout the United States, but also specifically over our region of California, our area here throughout the couple counties that you are elected to, and then, so I'm just wondering if you've had time to investigate the geoengineering operations that are going on and the weather modification programs that are going on, because the aerosols being deployed do have, they're out there in the sky and will eventually fall to the earth and fall into our airspace where we could possibly be breathing those particulates, and then that is, to me, it's just a public health concern as well as environmental. And that's just it. Just seeing if you've had a chance to follow up on that. And also, I just wanted to say personally, thank you for the times you've been out at the Veterans Memorial, for those times up at Baby Park when you've shown up for those dedication ceremonies. That was also very thoughtful of you. So thank you, Congressman.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that issue regarding the Weather Service. I know they provide a lot of good for forecasting weather and what have you. The only thing I can think of is the cloud seeding that goes on to induce more rain. And that goes on by a lot of local governments. They do that, and I'll get back to you on that. But on the broader picture, I'll find out about the aerosol issue that you're raising. I don't recall anything specific at the moment. I know we have raised a number of issues with them, but cloud seeding is the only thing that comes to mind. And I do appreciate, I'll follow up with you, make sure we get your name and number. And I do appreciate you raising the issue that we've done with the various meetings with veterans. I will say that we passed the PACT Act. It was bipartisan, it was last year, and it's brought the most increase in benefits to our veterans in over 3 decades for those that have been exposed to toxic environments in their service. So thank you for touching on that. You allowed me an opportunity to say that about our success.
We will try to keep moving here. Alita Ramirez. Alita? L-E-L? I'm sorry if I got that wrong.
Hello, hi. I just want to know, where do I get tickets to go to Washington, D.C. and tour the White House and the Capitol?
Alita, that's an easy one. Well, first of all, regrettably, you got to get yourself to Washington. So if you're coming out to Washington, just contact my staff, make sure we have your name and number. If you already have dates, the earlier the better, you let us know. We could arrange for visits and tours of the White House, the Capitol, and a number of other places as well. So my office can help with our staff in Washington to make sure that we do that for you and your family that are coming out.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
And most museums are gratis to the public in Washington. So you don't have to pay to go to many of these tours or museums. They're your museums, they're the nation's museums, and they're available to anybody who visits.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Next we're going to go to 80.
80?
That's Isaac.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I did.
I think I pressed the button. Hi, so it's not the first time I just want to read town hall. I want to say thank you to your staff. They have helped me twice when it comes to renewing my DACA and expediting that renewal. Unfortunately for me, October 7th is coming up, a different October 7th, and I feel kind of silly bringing this up. But, you know, it's the final hearing, and I'm a homeowner in this community. I pay taxes. I've been working legally now for 13 years, with DACA for 13 years, so it's really scary. I just want to know what you're doing to prepare for that. because there's many others like me.
Well, thank you. As you know, the DACA issue is before the Supreme Court. And I'm not sure if October 7th is when they're gonna provide an opinion or render an opinion. You might be referring to a renewal date?
No, it's the circuit where finally doing the hearing.
Okay, so it's the court.
Correct.
The court is considering this item. That will be key as to what happens moving forward. What I have been doing with my colleagues is moving forward legislation called the Dream and Promise Act that would actually provide a fix, a legislative fix, to providing dreamers an opportunity to continue to be in this country legally and to continue their lives as they are doing, to contribute to our economy. So there's a piece of legislation that's already initiated, but it hasn't moved. And realistically, I don't know that it'll move this year. Next year, it likely has a better chance because there'll be a new Congress. And I can't tell you what the makeup of Congress will be because we have an election coming up in November. But the opinion rendered by the courts will be key as to what the next steps are. It might provide an opportunity, a bipartisan opportunity, for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, to come up with a solution if that happens. I think there's enough people, hopefully on both sides of the aisle, that we can agree to come up with a legislative fix. But other than letting you know what we're working on and planning, that decision is going to be key. So, thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Kathy with a C, if that's helpful.
With the C?
Kathy with a C.
Or it could be with a K.
No, that isn't. I thought you meant my last name. Kathy with a...
No, sorry, Kathy D, but it's Kathy with a C.
Thank you. I just have a concern about senior citizens in the Lompoc area, along with the housing issue. I've been on the list for 3 years to get into the one on 7th, and they keep raising my place. I was down to number 10, and now I'm 18, and I found out that they changed the parameters of how you qualify. So I want to stay in my mobile home, and I cannot afford a $12,000 roof. My roof is leaking, there's beginnings of mold, and I started breaking down today to my daughter. I've called Communify, I went on the aging.gov. I've done everything I can think of to try and get help, financial help, like charitable roofers even, I mean, something like that. I talked to a roofer today, and he wants, $12,000. And unfortunately, I've had to retire. I retired from the county, and I just don't have the savings, and it's just frustrating. And is there anything in the books to help someone like me to stay in my home? It always advertises that. Help seniors stay in their homes, I don't want to be homeless, and I'm genuinely frightened about this roof and my situation, and I love my little home. So that's my question to you. What should I do next?
Kathy, like child care, housing is a crisis in our communities. And you live in a mobile home park? Is it a rent control mobile home park? Because we also have rent control mobile home parks that are made possible as a result of state law that I think allowed certain mobile home parks to have rent control. But all I can offer you is to work with your county social services department to direct you to any program that might help. Communify might have some assistance, county social services. And in terms of the list, that is a local issue with the housing authority, as you know, and they're the ones who make up those lists. The federal government provides a lot of the funding to help a lot of these programs, but it's local governments who really implement these programs. So they're the best one to work with. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's working with your local authorities and your local nonprofit and local government agencies that help in this regard. Thank you.
Okay, we're running very low on time here, so we'll try and get through as many as we can. Janet?
Thank you. Hello, salute, it's nice to see you. Thank you for being here and thank you for your work. My question is, I'm a member of the Lompoc Unified School District School Board, and I'm asking if you can endorse our bond issue that is on the ballot on November 5th. We have not passed a bond issue to modernize our schools in over 20 years, and our schools are all 60 years old or more, and we are in desperate need of modernization. There are community members who complain, well, the kids aren't learning. The students in our schools can see the tiles that fall from the roof and the tiles on the floor that are broken. We also have issues with asbestos still and other toxins. So we really need to pass this bond issue, and I believe your endorsement would go a long way toward that. Thank you.
Janet, you're asking me to make a political decision up at this taxpayer funded meeting. So I'll let you talk to me after this meeting. I think you'll find good news in that, but I cannot give you an answer about that political action that you want me to answer you from this podium. But thank you for your service on the Lompoc School Board. And I've always been a proponent of public education, and we'll do what I can to help. But on that, we'll talk about that later.
Fortunately, we're gonna have time for just one more, so we're gonna go to Beverly. Beverly. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Good evening. My name is April Dury. I'm within your constituents. I would like to address and bring to your attention an issue that I don't believe you really understand or know. I'm an adoptee. I was adopted. I was born in the state of Louisiana, so I know I'm talking on a state level issue, but what I don't think that the general public understands is that our access to our original birth certificates are given on a state-by-state basis. And so that means that I would have to try to get representation in a state I don't even live in anymore to get help for them to change their law. So what I would like is for you to maybe guide me or give me some information on how we could start talking about this on a federal level so we're all equal. It isn't fair. I live in California. California does not allow adoptees their original birth certificates. But any person born in this state that lives elsewhere has no they don't have you, they have no one. I don't have anyone in the state I was born in. So that's my question to you, if you could help us on some level. Thank you.
I think I understand your issue. Let me go back and look at what federal solution might exist, but in the meantime, work with my staff, because I could contact my colleagues from Louisiana and see how we might be able to get you your birth certificate, right? You're trying to ascertain your birth certificate.
If that state doesn't allow adoptees access to it, they have to pass a law, just like you would have to help pass a law. And so we have no one in the state.
I understand.
So that's what I mean. So,
let me explore what might be a solution. Obviously, if it's a state law, that's one thing. If it's a federal law that could supersede that, that's another thing. So let me explore that. Make sure we get your name and number, one of my staff members, and we'll see what might be a solution to that.
Thank you.
You threw a curve at me.
I know.
But I didn't realize that was the case.
Try to live with it.
So,
It's really hard.
That's right. Is that it?
Yes, we're unfortunately out of time.
Well, first of all,
you're not out of time. People have driven down here to talk with you. We have presented questions. Everybody has a right to petition their governor, and you need to open up a period of time more. It's unfair that you're canceling me out.
I'm gonna let you answer, I'm gonna let you ask your question.
Okay, my question is this.
Here we go, go ahead. You're the last question.
You started 10 minutes late.
Okay.
Oh my God.
We could go 10 minutes, how's that?
Okay.
Well, then you'd be.
How's that? You got 10 minutes.
Okay, well, I only need 10 minutes.
No, we're gonna give 10 minutes.
Several people here have talked about the issue related to Gaza. And there's one other issue which is dealing with AIPAC. And AIPAC is the American-Israeli Political Action Committee. We all know that they have interfered with our elections. We know as a fact that they have put in millions of dollars to unseat a fellow Democrat, Jamal Bowman. We know that as next week they're going to try to unseat Cori Bush, members of our own party. My request is, will you initiate a congressional investigation on behalf of the interference on AIPAC into our political system? This would be very much in the same way that the Democrats initiated an investigation into Russian collusion or Russian interference with the election before. And we can follow up this on when you're in Morro Bay. Okay?
You know, in the United States, we have something that, as you know, and I'm not being flippant, free speech. And there's legal and illegal activity. And AIPAC, like other entities, are legal entities that can stand up. Let me finish. You had your chance. Let me.
That's completely different.
I'm not sure that you're correct in that. But let me tell you, as long as they are conducting legal activities and spending money on elections like other entities and reporting it, they are within the law to do that. So I just want to make sure that that is my point of view. And
well, yeah, let's get an investigation.
Well, for that matter, we can investigate other entities, and as long as they are abiding by the law, they are allowed to do that, and it's called free speech. So I will not open up an investigation. You got another 5 minutes.
We have other questions from folks who've come.
And you were sworn to
Sir.
protect against
You already had your chance, sir.
enemies,
One more time.
foreign and domestic.
We do have a question from David from Lompoc. David? In the back here.
Did you have a copy for Mr. Carbajal? There was one that I just so he could follow along.
Oh, yeah, with your
that
question.
was much better. Thank you. Bye.
I have it here, sir. I'll make sure he has it.
Make sure he gives it to me.
Yep.
I'm military, so the commander or whoever you're briefing knows what you're going to talk about. All right. So he's not like, what did you say? Give him a minute.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Carbajal. How you doing? My name is David. I've lived in Lompoc 30 years. And my first question
is a proposed exit tax initiative was rejected by state lawmakers. I don't know how far it went, but it was there. I believe it was AB 259. My concern, along with many others, is this measure was to be proposed again with the same intent and time. It's basically an exit tax if you're leaving California. Okay. So the proposed tax, eventually, if it does go through, would be handled through the California Franchise Tax Board, more than likely. And my question really is, have you ever supported this measure? And if so, and why?
Good answer for you.
I got another question after that.
Well, I've never supported that. I never even heard about it until today. So
wow. It's there. It's just kind of hidden. You have to really.
It's a state of California issue. I certainly haven't.
Okay, that's fine.
The last question.
So you say no?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great, Mark. Second question. This concerns a lot of folks that have older parents. Proposition 19. That was passed in 2001 by 49 to 51 by the voters. That was by the voters. And that means basically when your folks pass, you don't have the same protections under Proposition 13, which means basically that home now is eligible for a larger tax, a huge tax for many folks. When their parents passed, what happened to me, luckily I fell 2 months behind that, so I didn't fall in. I fell in 13, so I'm all good. But the younger generation now, when their folks pass, maybe 20 years, 30 years, this proposition means that you're not going to be able to afford that house that your parents left for you unless you live in it. And a lot of folks don't want to move 12 miles or hours or wherever to that house and live in their parents' house just to keep it so they don't get the higher tax. So there's a movement that's trying to repeal it. It's been hard, it's tough, I don't think it's going to happen, but if that does, would you support the reversal of Proposition 19? Because I think it was written in a confusing way, so a lot of folks voted not what they were thinking it said. Yes means no, no means yes. You know some of the initiatives lately have been very confusing, and the way, maybe you can work on that too. The legislation, maybe that it should be straightforward what that initiative is. I sign these petitions all the time at Walmart, outside Walmart, because I know some of these initiatives that they put before the voters is so confusing. Yes means no, no means yes. Most people would agree it's crazy. So thank you. Your answer would be supporting a repeal of 19 or not. Thank you.
That's one approach. Thank you, and you know these are state issues. I'm not familiar with Prop 19 repeal effort or campaign. I would have to read it to really give you an informed answer. I think you'll appreciate that I don't make decisions when I don't have all the information or understand an initiative. But that's a California matter. I certainly will bone up on it and understand it. But I don't think I could give you a yes or no answer without better understanding it. With that, I think that concludes our 10 minutes.
I don't think it does.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all you comments.